Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am going to be creating, or should I say recreating, a card that I showed previously on my blog during the Essentials by Ellen March 2018 release blog hop. And I'm going to be using this So Matcha stamp set, and I think these girls are absolutely adorable. And I'm also going to be using that little lucky cat. So what I'm going to do is I am starting out with the images that I'm going to use, and I'm placing them into my mini Misty, and I'm going to stamp them with some Hero Arts Intense Black ink onto some Nina Solar White cardstock. You can use 80 or 110 pound. I used 110 pound, and I'm thinking I may switch over to mainly 110 pound. It gives the die cuts, once they're die cut, a little more weight and heft to them and kind of prevents them from getting bent and all that when they're in the mail. So you can see I double stamped those images to get a nice intense black color. And now I'm going to take the little bamboo image from that stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it a couple of times using Hero Arts lime green ink onto that same cardstock. Once I have that all stamped, I'm going to take my little girl image again, and I'm going to stamp her onto some Post-it note, and this Post-it has all over sticky on the back. So the entire back side of this Post-it has sticky on it, and I'm going to use this as a mask. You could also use masking paper, but the thing I wanted to point out here is that you want to keep the outer portion of this mask intact because we're actually going to be doing some reverse masking today. So you can see I'm cutting the little girl out. I don't need the head masked or reverse masked, so I'm just kind of cutting through it. And that entire mask stayed in one piece with just that little slit at the bottom. So now that I have my mask ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and take my COPIC markers and color my images. Now I left the coloring in and I sped it up. And I'm not real sure. Do you guys like it when I leave the coloring in? Do you want me to leave it out? It doesn't bother me either way. I could use it for story time, although these are not going to be great stories because it's not going to take up a whole lot of time here. But I do want to mention that I will have the supplies listed and linked over at my blog. So if you're looking for the specific COPIC colors that I use, be sure to check over there. But I'm doing some simple COPIC coloring. I'm going in with my lightest color first, and then I'm adding my dark color and then blending out with the light. Now, sometimes I go back in with my darkest color and add it in, and I don't blend it out. That's a tip I learned from Jennifer McGuire, and that just helps intensify those shadows. Now for her belt, I just used the same tones. I just went with one marker darker. One marker darker. That rhymes. Isn't that cool? And I'm going to use the same colors to color in that umbrella. Now once that umbrella is colored, I am going to color the cat. And I want him to be white, but I do want him to have a little bit of shading. So I'm coming in with the T0 or the Toner Gray 0 marker. And I have to tell you, I'm adding a little shadow and blending it out with the Colorless blender. I own a lot of gray COPIC markers, and for whatever reason, these toner grays just work for me for whatever kind of image I'm coloring. I've really been enjoying them. I tend to use the warm grays on like animals, but for the most part, I've been grabbing the toner grays and they're easy to blend and they just work for me. So now that all of my coloring is done, I am going to start the reverse masking process. So you can see I've applied my mask around that little girl. Now with masking, most of the time we want to mask out the part that's around our stamped image. With reverse masking, we want to do the exact opposite. We want the stamping to land on the image that we've already stamped and colored and stay off of the surrounding area. So you can see I've applied that reverse mask so that the outer area of my stamped image is protected. And now I'm using this little floral stamp from the So Matcha stamp set, and I'm stamping a little floral pattern onto her, is it a kimono there? Yeah, it's a kimono, right? And then you can see I masked off the belt too because I didn't want any pattern on the belt. And for a couple of those where they were going to overlap onto the bottom part of the dress, I just grabbed the other part of that Post-it that I had already cut out. and mask the bottom part. And you can see when I remove the mask, I can put this aside and save it for another project. But I have that floral image now stamped onto her kimono there, and the outside area of that stamped and colored image is protected. Now, if you wanted to, you could probably use a masking fluid or something like that to achieve the same kind of thing. But keep in mind that the ink will sit on top of that masking fluid, so you want to be careful when you are going to remove it that you don't smear any of that ink onto that image that you've just stamped and colored. So now that I have these all ready to go, I'm going to start die cutting them using the coordinating dies, and I'm using my Gemini Junior to die cut today. You can use whatever die cut machine you have. And while I have my die cut machine out, I am going to cut a window onto my card base and a liner piece that's going to go on the inside. So I'm using a My Favorite Things peekaboo die. It's going to create some stitching along the outside of the window, and it's going to cut the window at the same time. So you can see I cut through both of these layers. So that is the entire card base and a piece of cardstock that's going to go on the inside so that I can sandwich this piece of vellum in between and have a nice clean look on the inside of my card. Now, I used a really technical way of measuring my vellum to cut it for my window. I held it up and I grabbed my scissors and I cut a really rough line because it's not going to matter. Nobody's going to see the edges and nobody's going to care if it was straight because they're never going to know. It's just you and me and YouTube that know about this. And to add a little color to my vellum window, I am going to use the same colors that I used on my girl's robe and belt and all that. And I'm going to create kind of an ombre effect on that vellum. You can see I have it on a piece of scratch paper so that you can kind of see what I'm doing better, but I'm allowing those colors to overlap. Now, once I have that colored, I'm going to attach it to the inside of my card base using just a little bit of tape runner adhesive. And then I'm going to take that inner panel that I die cut along with the card base. I'm going to apply some tape runner adhesive to the inside of my card base, and then I'm going to sandwich that vellum right between that inner panel and the card base so that I have a nice clean look on the inside of my card. Now, I should have waited, and you'll see what I mean here in just a minute, but I should have waited to put that inner panel on because I could have hid something else behind it, but I totally didn't even think of it. I went ahead and reinforced that line, that score line on the top of my card base to help it lay a little flatter now that there's a couple of layers in there. And along the bottom of these bamboo, there are some little areas that are held together by just a teeny tiny little area, and you can cut those apart or you can leave them fused. I decided to cut them apart so that I could tuck part of it inside the window and allow part of it to hang out. And then I attached it onto my card using some strong liquid adhesive. Now, when I'm putting my liquid adhesive up, I put the needle back in that fine tip nozzle and I pull it out and I clean it with a baby wipe, and I repeat that process twice. And that has really been helping me prevent any kind of clogging of those fine tip nozzles. Now, for my sentiment, I'm going to use the So Lucky to Call You Friend sentiment from the So Matcha stamp set. And I am embossing it onto a piece of vellum. So I prepped that surface with some powder tool and added some Brutus Monroe gilded embossing powder. And I heat set that. I did stamp the image also with some Versamark ink. And now I'm using my scissors to trim it down into a little banner end, and I'm going to attach it using some tiny strips of foam adhesive. Now, here's where I could have tucked this behind that inner panel. I took the rest of that vellum banner and folded it to the inside of the card. Had I not attached the inner panel, I could have sandwiched that also between those two pieces and had a nice clean look, but I didn't think of it. So plan ahead, people. Don't do what I do. Plan ahead. It works out so much better in the end. I attached my little die cut and colored images onto my card front using a double layer of foam adhesive, and you can see the little cat and the girl are holding hands. I added just a little bit of twine at the top of that card base, and then I finished off the cat's collar with a little gold sequin there in the middle, which I think was super adorable. So that completes my card project today, using a little bit of reverse masking to customize this little girl's kimono, which I think is so much fun. You could use any type of stamp to do this. You could use like some stripes in there or some polka dots. The sky is really the limit, but this is just a little different take on the traditional masking that we usually do to build a scene. As always, I will have links to the featured products in the description at YouTube, but head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com where you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies over there. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any of my card making video tutorials. Thanks for spending time with me today, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Once again, I want to thank you for stopping by today. If you want to subscribe to my channel, just hit that button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.